Be my symbol of peace by helping this video achieve the like goal. Full details at the end of the video. Hey guys, how you doing? This is Manga, etc. and I'm here today to bring you what if Bakugo inherited the One for All Part 5. This video will cover the U.A Sports Festival Arc. Like I always say, if you need a catch up or if you've just stumbled onto this video, go back to the part that you need to be caught up on and then come back to this video so everything makes perfect sense. And with that all said and done, I'm now going to dive into part 5. So a lot of this arc is exactly the same as it is within the original story. Eraserhead goes on to explain the importance of the festival, with the class getting excited for it, especially Uraraka. During lunch, All Might finds Bakugo and invites him to have lunch with him. Over lunch, All Might asks Bakugo if he can regulate the One for All yet. Bakugo says no, but he is getting close. All Might will also go on to tell Bakugo that he wants him to tell the world, "I am here," at the sports festival. Bakugo grins and tells All Might he doesn't have anything to worry about. Things continue to follow along like they do within the original story up until the start of the sports festival. During the 2 weeks before the festival, Bakugo would focus on honing the One for All as well as improving his base speed and strength. Because of the lack of interaction with Deku in this what if, there is no declaration of war made to him by Shoto. And because Shoto doesn't do this, Bakugo doesn't feel undermined by him before the start of the sports festival. Shoto would see Bakugo as competition, but not enough to verbally declare war. All of the classes gather in the stadium. Midnight gives the welcoming speech before calling Bakugo to give the student pledge. His pledge is the exact same as it is within the original story. Before walking off, he is startled as he noticed Deku in the crowd. While everyone is complaining about his oath, Deku realizes the true meaning behind its words. Everyone prepares themselves for the obstacle race. So in this what if, Deku is still the same All Might fanboy he is in the original story. Having no quirk, he wants to intimidate All Might as much as possible. Before the events of the sports festival, Deku met with Mei Hatasumi. Together they was able to come up with equipment idea for Deku. Deku is currently sporting a pair of gloves similar to the Air Force glove he receives in episode 84 and chapter 125, allowing him mid-range attacks, and a pair of boots that allow for him to dash and leap around. Also, his physical strength is not the same level as it was in the original story at this point. Not having gone through All Might's training is a big loss. This Deku is raring to go. The race starts and Deku is not one of the people who get stuck in Shoto's ice. Shoto is the first to make it past the robots, with Deku following almost immediately after. He dashes upwards so he's in range and uses his glove to defeat a robot, clearing a path. Soon after, Bakugo makes his move bypassing the robots, telling Deku to stay in his lane as he passes him. Deku falls more behind as they reach the second hurdle. He's able to leap from rock to rock with his boost, but he has to be careful and tactful, deciding from which rock to jump to and from. When Deku makes it to the final obstacle, he is able to clear it with 2 leaps thanks to his boost. The first one puts him ahead of Shoto and Bakugo. Luckily for him, he didn't set off any bombs. The second one sees him clear the obstacle. He dashes off to finish the race, having now gained the lead. Deku wins with Shoto and Bakugo following shortly after. So in this what if, it is Class A and B, Deku and Shinzo who make it to the next round. Mei Hatasumi is the one from the original story who doesn't make the cut. For the most part, all the cavalry battle teams would be the same. In this what if, Deku and Shinzo would know one another and would most likely be friends, both understanding the hardship of wanting to get onto the hero course. Shinzo would admire Deku even more so, trying to attempt this without a quirk. Because of this, they would be willing to team up. The other two members of the team would be Shoda and Aoyama. Uraraka would ask Alexis to team up, to which she would be willing. He has the idea to recruit Ida, but by the time they get to him, he has already been recruited to Team Shoto. Uraraka and Alexis think of others who would make for good team members. Alexis has an idea and rushes off to locate Togoyami, who joins the team. Just as Midnight is about to start the battle, a voice in the crowd shouts, excuse me one moment." Everyone looks to where the voice came from. It's Ojiro. Embarrassed by it, he tells Midnight he does not have a team. Midnight addresses everyone, asking can anyone take another team member. Quick to respond, Alexis says they can take him. With that all said and done, round 2 was ready to begin. The battle goes a little differently this time around. Not fixated on Deku, Shoto plays a more defensive style, more concentrated on keeping his band and taking enough to keep him in the game. Bakugo is even more determined to take Deku's band than in the original story. As Deku is quirkless in this what if, Bakugo sees him as more inferior and is more pissed off that he lost the race to a quirkless Deku. However, just like in the original story, Bakugo doesn't get around to confronting Deku until the very end, and by then it is too late. You can argue this time around that Team Deku is weaker than the one we get in the original story. However, if Team Shinzo can do it in the original story, I believe Deku and Shinzo together could achieve victory. At the end of round 2, the following teams get through in this order: Team Deku, Team Shoto, Team Bakugo, Team Alexis. Pretty much everyone is stunned that the quirkless boy from General Studies has placed first again. Bakugo is pissed off that Deku has outshined him again. Midnight announces a break before the start of the next round. Before they finalize the drawings for the fight, a slight change would occur. As Ojiro would not have suffered the brainwashings, he would not feel the need to withdraw. Because of this, I also feel that Shoda wouldn't get the idea to withdraw. The first rounds are as followed: Deku vs Sarah, Shinzo vs Ojiro, Ashido vs Alexis, Kirishima vs Bakugo, Tokoyami vs Momo, Shoto vs Shoda, Denki vs Aida, and Aoyama vs Uraraka. Fun fact, I used a random generator to pick the fights. This pleased me because everything lined to my wants without me having to force it. So minor spoiler warning for what's coming up, but Deku will fight Bakugo. It's almost like this fight was destined to happen. Deku vs Sarah I think could go either way, but I'm going to give the win to Deku. If Deku stays back and observes Sarah to begin with, he would come to learn his range, realizing if he closes the gap and attacks his quirks is useless. However, if Sarah could tape up Deku, he could win. However, I don't think he'd be able to do that easily. The only reason he got Shoto so easily in their fight was because Shoto was distracted at the time. Shinzo vs Ojiro. This is Shinzo's win. Shinzo would brainwash Ojiro and get him to walk off the stage. Ashido vs Alexis. I would have to give this to Alexis. I feel like Ashido wouldn't be willing to use her quirk on a fellow classmate. It would help her with getting around, but ultimately she would be outclassed by Alexis' martial arts training. Kirishima vs Bakugo. This battle actually happens in the original story, so we know how it goes. Bakugo takes the win for this one. Tokoyami vs Momo. I would give it to Tokoyami. He's more of an aggressive fighter, and at this point Momo wouldn't know the weakness of Dark Shadow. Shoto vs Shoda. Shoto still has his talk with his dad behind the scenes, so Shoda gets put on ice just like Sarah does in the original story. Denki vs Aida. I thought Aida would win this using the same approach she did with Aibara. Aoyama vs Uraraka. Being the last fight in the first round, there would be lots of debris for Uraraka to use in this fight. All she would have to do is wait out until Aoyama's belly cramped up and then float him out of bounds. However, she wouldn't know of Aoyama's weakness at this time, so that probably wouldn't be her game plan. She would most likely be waiting for her opening, but at the end of the day, it's this different mindset leading to the same result. After the first round matchups, of course we move on to the second. First match would be Deku vs Shinzo. Once upon the stage, Shinzo throws the match. He explains to a shocked Deku a fight between them is pointless as he knows about his quirk, and is confident he can't beat him at hand-to-hand combat. Alexis vs Bakugo. Bakugo has been itching for a rematch ever since their battle training lesson where he feels like he lost to Alexis. Alexis is excitedly nervous about the fight as he knows it will be good but tricky. Without his hero costume, Alexis has to be wary of Bakugo's explosion, but is able to push him a little bit before Bakugo beats him by KO and ring out. Alexis is taken to the nurse's office while the next match can begin. Tokoyami vs Shoto. With Dark Shadow, Tokoyami can attack from a distance, but I feel like using Dark Shadow makes him an easier target to freeze. Aida vs Uraraka. Similar to how most of Aida's fights went during the Sports Festival Arc, Aida would overwhelm Uraraka with his speed, beating her by ring out. This would end round 2, which would move on to the semi-finals, with Deku vs Bakugo being the first match. While walking to the stage, Bakugo flashbacks to the praise he and Deku got from their middle school teacher for getting into UA. Bakugo will still take Deku aside after and get mad at Deku for trying to outshine him and demand to know how he pulled it off. However, Deku's speech to Bakugo will be a little different and go something like this. Well, I didn't make it onto the hero course if that makes you feel any better, but that's not going to stop me from doing my best. I'm still going to be a great hero someday. The fight starts and is pretty one-sided. Similar to the fight in the original story, Deku's research and know-how on Bakugo will help a little bit, but as Deku is unfamiliar with his growth, he is quickly overwhelmed. Bakugo purposely makes sure that he breaks Deku's support gear before blasting him out of the ring. Unimpressed, Bakugo walks off to prepare himself for the finals. While he is in the midst of leaving the stage, Deku shouts after him, "Ka-chan, I may have lost, but I'm not going to stop until I beat you." This annoys Bakugo while he walks off. Deku is escorted to the nurse's office. While there, Deku meets Alexis on his way out. "Nice try out there, man. I was rooting for you, but don't swear, you'll beat him next time." Alexis gives him a wink and a thumbs up. Deku feels encouraged and a sudden unexplained boost. Alexis pats him on the shoulder as he walks past. "Sorry about that, I can't help it sometimes. I just use my quirk on you. Well, see ya." Deku stares at Alexis a little confused when Nurse sees him standing there and asks if he's coming in. Shoto versus Ida. This fight happens in the original story and happens the same way. Around this time, Ida gets the phone call about his brother in the hospital and leaves immediately. Bakugo versus Shoto. Again, another fight that happens in the original story, which unfolds the same way. Bakugo wins the fight but is unable to get Shoto to go full out, so is unsatisfied with the victory. The award ceremony happens. All Might gives out the medals. Unlike in the original story, Deku has placed third. Everyone is shocked that a general studies student has made it this far. Deku is happy to get praise from his idol as he receives his medal. Deku is super pleased as he didn't think he would make it this far. The rest of the ceremony follows how it does in the original story. Back in class, Eraserhead will tell them they will have a few days off to which they enjoy. Shoto doesn't go to visit his mum in the hospital. This is because due to the lack of Deku-Shoto moments that happens within the original story, so Shoto doesn't start his recovery phase. Bakugo uses the day off to further his training. Now that I've reached the end of the Sports Festival Arc, I'll be ending off this video, but without further ado, the like goal. Alrighty, so let's talk about the like goal. So I was thinking if we can get 10 likes within the first week, then I will have the next part out the week after that. Just so there's no confusion, I have the dates displayed on the screen. So yeah, let's see if we can hit this like goal. Make sure to check the end cards because depending on when you're watching this, the next part may already be out. Like always guys, I'm asking for your thoughts and opinions. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. But most importantly, take care, have a nice day.